Shalom. This week we are reading Parshat Beshalach. We reach the heart of the experience of the Exodus, the splitting of the sea, crossing of the Sea of Reeds. Next week in Parshat Yitro, we're going to read how God chooses the people of Israel and says, you are going to be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Next week's Parsha. And how do we explain this? The whole concept of the Jewish people being the chosen people, it's the source of a lot of resentment for some people, including some Jews, and a lot of misunderstanding. We always explain that it's not about privilege. It's not about some sort of elite society of perks. And, I compare it to like the frequent flyers first class club, the Admiral's Club, where these guys take a special pass and go in there and they're greeted and they have a martini waiting for them there. What God had in mind when he told Israel they're going to become the nation of priests and the holy nation, it's about responsibility. What we always emphasize, it's about accountability, and it's about taking really responsibility for the world. And so too, in this week's Parsha, and in the build-up, the backstory of everything that's been leading up to this seminal moment, the crossing of the sea, everything that we've been learning until now about the Exodus, the 10 plagues, everything that's been going on in Egypt. Now, some people might have the impression that it was all fun and games for Israel. They had darkness, we had light. They had blood pouring out of their tumblers, and we had water. And we just kind of laid back and watched the Egyptians suffer and had a great time and just were very smug about this turn of events. All fun and games. And that isn't the case at all. The whole period was also a period of testing and refinement for Israel. After all, when it came to Pesach night, we were required to put the blood of the Passover offering on the inside of the door, not on the outside. It was a tremendous challenge for Israel to confront the Egyptians days before the Exodus and to bring their God into the house and tie it down, and for all to see that they were going to be slaughtering it. And even that night, the night of the slaying of the firstborn, the purpose of the blood on the inside of the door was to strengthen Israel, to remind Israel of her bond with the Almighty and her special protection, and also to remind her that it's essentially up to us. And so it was a personal reminder, but this whole process is full of what I would have to call, finding the cost of freedom. After all, we read in the second verse of this week's Torah portion, Beshalach, chapter 22, we read in verse 18 how chamushim alu. The children of Israel went up chamushim from Eretz Mitzrayim, from the land of Egypt, which really, our sages indicates, means that only 1/5 of the Jewish people left Egypt. And this is a very heavy teaching. What happened to the other 4/5? They did not merit to leave. They were also stricken down during the plague of darkness. They were not interested in leaving Egypt. So there's no fun and games here at all for Israel either, in the whole process of coming to terms with what freedom would really mean for the people of Israel, taking this responsibility. As we mentioned, we're going to read about in Parshat Yitro. And even now, in Parshat Beshalach, we read immediately in the beginning of the Torah portion how God already saw he wasn't able to lead the people directly in the shortest routes because they were already issues involving their newfound freedom. Were they really ready for it? Were they really prepared to confront everything that would be in their path on their way to be meeting up with their destiny? And then again, at the sea itself, we learn, our sages teach us, what a tremendous, chaotic, motley crew, what a situation existed at the moment of truth. We read about how the children of Israel, and of course this according to the Midrash, according to the oral tradition, what went on behind the scenes at the splitting of the sea. We read how the people were divided into opposing groups, some expressing more faith and showing a preparedness to continue, some wanting to rebel against Moshe, some wanting to return to Egypt, some wanting to fight the Egyptians, and some literally prepared to commit national suicide and just throw themselves with total desperation, despair, into the sea. So this was a process of spiritual maturation and preparation for true freedom, which means to be able to serve Hashem in this world as we have to today, and taking responsibility and accountability for that freedom. And now, in today's Torah portion, this week, we reach the sea, the heart of the Exodus experience. And this could be said to be easily the seminal event in the life of Israel thus far. And the whole concept of the beautiful Song of the Sea in this week's Torah portion has tremendous significance. It's replete with so many different levels of understanding. It is actually, our sages tell us, the first time in human history that a song was sung to God. Here you have the people of Israel singing this song. And nobody sang a song before this to God. So what's the significance of this then and today? And today, the Song of the Sea is incorporated into the daily prayers of Israel. It's recited every morning, and in fact, we are told that one who recites it with great intention and devotion and joy, especially, will merit to recite it in the coming world, in the future world. The Song of the Sea, such an unparalleled and beautiful praise of Hashem, is symbolic of the secrets of the resurrection. This much we know. Symbolic of the secrets of the future resurrection. And our sages tell us that even the simplest person, the lowliest handmaiden, someone who had no prior experience in any sort of brush with the divine, every single Jew present had a greater level of prophecy than the prophet Ezekiel. The simplest people were exalted to a rarefied level of consciousness. Furthermore, our sages tell us that even babies, suckling infants, and even the unborn children in the wombs of the mothers, they all stopped and they sang this song because they saw something. Now, the verse tells us here in our PARSHA that they saw the hand of God. But what does that mean? What did they really see? They saw something, but what does the hand of God look like? Does it look like columns of water separating? Does it look like the bodies of the Egyptians piled up on the shore to such an extent that the Israelites actually recognized personally their tormentors, and they were able to see the faces of their oppressors? That certainly must be quite an experience. Our sages tell us the description of the channels of water, the columns, and how each tribe walked simultaneously along a different route, a different path, but they were walking together and they had contact with each other, and how the experience was this moment of tremendous unity for the nation. And altogether, description of the experience, its place is really unparalleled in the consciousness of the Jewish people. But is it possible for us somehow to demystify an experience like this? I mean, what did they really see? What does the hand of God look like? What does it mean? You know, our sages tell us that every body of water in the world split. not only the Sea of Reeds. What's going on here? And to say that by reciting it today and concentrating on its meaning and identifying with its inner essence and message, that by doing that and reciting it in joy today, one will merit to say it in the future world. And this, again, this connection to the time of the resurrection. What is really being communicated here? To say that we recite it joyfully in this world and thus we will be able to recite it in the next world as a guarantee seems to be implying, conveying that not only is something being communicated, but something is being prepared. An infrastructure on a spiritual level is being prepared. So I have all these details and all of these descriptions that obviously sound fanciful to our ears, and we already know the important guidelines of understanding the deepest teachings of our sages, that every message that's being communicated exists on the level of metaphor as well, and that there are powerful truths that are timeless that are being communicated here to us, because obviously if this is a major part of the Torah and a major theme in the Exodus, and such an emphasis is placed on our recital and occupation with the song today, obviously there is a great core lesson being communicated here. So, what did they see? You know, people today talk about, and they have been for a long time, people talk about altered states of consciousness. I think that the most powerful motif that's being communicated by the Torah of our understanding of the Song of the Sea is that here you had the entire nation of Israel, men, woman, and child, who were exalted to an altered level of consciousness. And no drugs were involved, and no mind-altering substances were involved, but the entire nation had a totally different perception of reality. And apparently, if I understand our sages correctly, that level of reality had a ripple effect. That new perception had a ripple effect and could be felt throughout the world. And that's the meaning of the idea that every body of water split. Everybody was able to see what was going on. Everyone was able to perceive that life, that reality, is not necessarily what we've been thinking. And maybe what they saw at the sea was the true reality, and what we suffer from constantly is the illusion. Things are not always the way they appear. And what did Moshe tell the people of Israel moments before the splitting of the sea? He said, "Do not fear, stand fast and see the salvation of Hashem that He will perform for you today. For as you have seen Egypt today, you shall not see them ever again. Hashem shall make war for you, and you shall remain silent." So everything can change in a moment. One of the most beautiful teachings of our sages in regards to this experience and what it was like, and the incredible emphasis on the total altered sense of perception and reality that was the hallmark of the moment. Our sages teach us that, and after all, the trek took some time. It took some hours to cross this large area to the other side. Well, people get hungry during that time. Little babies, little children have to eat. Our sages teach us that there were fruit trees growing, sprouting up in the midst of the walls of water, and a mother would just reach out and grab an apple or a pomegranate and feed it to her child. And again, it is possible to demystify these teachings, because the Torah is, more than anything else, practical and directly applicable to our lives. So what is this teaching really communicating to us more than anything? That these mothers of Israel fed their children on the faith that Hashem would deliver them. That the very experience itself became sustenance, became nourishment. And that's the idea of this beautiful metaphor of grabbing fruit. I mean, the Torah isn't teaching us to believe in miracles that don't make sense to us. The Torah consistently is teaching us to believe in miracles, not only that make sense, but that we bring about. And the perfect example of this is the story of the splitting of the sea. So the mothers in Israel fed their children on the fruits of this experience, on what it really meant to them, because they had reached this altered level of consciousness, and they had this different perception of reality. But the main lesson of the Torah is that that moment can be anywhere at any time. And like the Jewish people, like Nachshon, the prince of the tribe of Judah, who walked into the water to make all of this happen, that moment can happen, and the curtain of illusion that we labor under day in and day out can part, and we can have a glimpse, however fleeting or however constant, of the true nature of reality, which is exactly what the people of Israel perceived at that time. It was a level of perception of the truth of our relationship with Hashem, what that relationship can bring us, and to where it can bring us. And that was truly the revelation of the hand of God at the splitting of the sea, the parting of the curtains of illusion that we convince ourselves is the requirements and the circumstances and the restrictions under which we labor every day. There can come a time when we can have a moment of perception of true reality. And it's something that we have to bring about ourselves, and that's the true nature of a miracle. And then we feed our children on that faith. And then Hashem splits the sea and changes the course of nature. And it can be felt and reverberated in every body of water in the world, and everyone is aware of it, because when the people of Israel are ready to make the miracle happen, then that miracle will affect all of mankind. And that is the true promise of reciting the Song of the Sea with joy in this world and meriting to recite it in the world to come.